Hi, happy Sunday. Welcome to our Sunday Live today. I'm Karen here, your favorite virtual assistant. And of course, Gail, we're going to pass up the torch to you so you can get started, introduce the guests, and
Hey,
start this
everybody.
formative conversation.
Yeah, welcome to another Sunday Live. We're happy to be here. I'm Gail, and I am the CEO, lead training consultant at Envision Training Solutions. And what we do is we create and design training programs to help leaders empower their people so that everybody can learn and grow and earn together. And today we are so happy to have Stacey Montgomery with us. Welcome to the chat, Stacey. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your business, and what led you to the current journey that you are on. We're very, very happy to have you here and to have this important conversation.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. So, I like to introduce myself as a mom. I'm a mom on a mission to help ensure that kids understand their value. So, when my son was in school, he was bullied. He had few friends and did not feel welcome in those buildings. He didn't feel good about himself. So, his journey inspired me to embark on my journey to provide tools that will help other moms, caregivers, and educators help their kids to understand their value. So I am now an author. I'm the author of a series of guided journals for kids. I also give workshops to youth groups, and I provide curricula for elementary schools that help kids believe in themselves so that they would take brave steps forward toward their goals and make a positive impact on their community.
Mhm.
Okay. All right, that's perfect. I mean, that's good as far as it's right. Just the fact that just child struggling kind of motivated you to start this
Yes.
journey to teach other parents how to navigate, because some parents don't know how to navigate when the kids are
Mhm.
bullied at school, and then sometimes even the school doesn't help you in these kind of situations. Um, so I think it's good that you have that. You are able to help parents navigate this this very difficult time in their life.
Mhm.
So I know you also. I'm sorry. You want before I continue? You want to say anything else? I don't want to be.
Oh,
I want to just keep,
well,
jump over.
Yeah.
I, I definitely have designed my books. I have tools that help parents, but parents often depend on schools, depend on the teachers, depend on
Mhm.
the
Yes.
Mhm.
administration
Yes.
to help their kids and to give them guidance when their kids are
Hmm.
struggling in school. Because a lot of times, parents don't know what's happening in school,
Mhm.
and what's happening at home can be very different from what's happening in school. So, so let me just backtrack a little bit and share more of my son's story.
Mhm.
So, my son, his name is Isaiah. He is now a young adult, but he is neurodivergent. He has ADHD and is on the spectrum. So, he has had IEPs all his throughout his entire school career. He was diagnosed autism before he was 2, ADHD around the time he was maybe 4.
Hmm.
So the schools did a good job, as far as giving him academic support and therapy. But what they did not do a great job of was helping his social emotional needs, and that became more and more apparent as he exited elementary school and went to middle school and went on to high school. So he didn't have a lot of friends, and he was bullied. He was bullied pretty much almost every day that he went to school, particularly in high school and a little in middle school as well. And I did not realize the extent of the problem until very later on in the game. I knew he experienced bullying, and I had conversations with the schools about that, and but I didn't realize the full extent of it until after he graduated. But the issue is the way the schools approached it, the way the schools handled it. So first, starting in elementary school, there was one boy who was bullying my son. He was in they were in fifth grade, and so I spoke to the teacher, and she did nothing about it. She basically denied, didn't acknowledge that it happened.
Mm-hmm.
So I emailed the principal, and so we were emailing back and forth for a little bit. And so this showed me, his response showed me, sadly, what is more common than not with administration when dealing with bullying. So we were emailing back and forth. And then finally, he said to me in an email, and I still have the email, he said to me that he will no longer discuss this in email for legal reasons. I said, okay, so you don't want to leave a paper trail. I understand. I'll be in there
Mm-hmm.
this morning. I didn't ask for an appointment. I let him know that I would be in his office the next morning. And I told him what time I would be there. And so I was there, and he brought the teacher in, and it was a useless conversation because they just denied anything happened. They didn't acknowledge that anything happened. Fine. So I was very happy that it was toward the end of fifth grade that he was graduating and going on to middle school. So fast forward to high school. And when it comes to kids who have IEPs, who are um, who are deemed to be different, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on, that concept of being different. But when it comes to students like that, what the schools do, they recognize that they may have problems making friends, and that there may be some bullying because other students think that they're different. But the response that many schools have is that they pull out the students, and they put them into social groups and other types of meetings to help, ostensibly to help with their confidence and help give them skills to make friends. The problem with this approach is that it makes it contributes to the students feeling that they are different and that the other kids aren't different. So the
Mm-hmm.
message is that they shine a light on these students' deficits, and they tell them, whether it is subtly or not so subtly, that if you expect to have friends, then you need to be different. You need to be different than what you are right now. You need to be more like those the other kids. So you take a child that has that's on the spectrum, for example. As we know, sometimes they have unique mannerisms. They often cannot look other people in the eye. You know, communication can be a problem. So, are you going to tell these kids, okay, I know that you STEM, you know, for comfort. I know that, you know, for whatever reason, you have problems with communication, but you need to fix all that so that the other kids will like you. That's the message.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the opposite of empowering, the exact opposite. So while I have tools that for parents to use at home, I have a series of guided journals, and I offer a few other resources. But yes, I have tools that parents can use at home. I want to get to schools because the messaging in schools, many schools, is problematic, and it contributes to the problem.
Yeah.
So, after my son graduated, and believe me, when he was still in school, I was one of those moms that I would call an IEP meeting, you know, anytime I felt like it. If I felt that he wasn't getting the proper support, I called a meeting. I was annoying to them, and parents need to be annoying to their schools. Be annoying. It's called advocating for your child. And teach your child to advocate for themselves. So I was a parent that was in the school calling meetings all the time. When he was in middle school, um, I was having another email back and forth with one of his teachers, uh, and So my son is ADHD, and she kept telling me that my son won't focus.
Mm.
He has ADHD. And she kept talking about how he doesn't pay attention, doesn't focus. And so I finally I said, "Do you even know what ADHD is?" And I start, that was the line of questioning. And so I finally, I don't know what I said. I can't remember my exact words, but the result was either later on that day or the next day, I got a call from the principal. I got called into the principal's office because I made the teacher cry.
You made her cry,
Wow.
Stacey?
I
Like,
made her
how did
cry.
you make her cry? Because she
Wow.
I
obviously did not understand what
Exactly,
ADHD meant.
exactly. I didn't
Right.
say anything. I didn't call her names. I didn't do anything like that. I asked her, "Do
Mhm,
you even know what ADHD?" Because you keep telling me that telling
mhm,
him that he doesn't focus. Like I'm supposed to say, okay, Isaiah, focus. And he's
Right.
supposed to say, okay, so I went in for my meeting because I was calling to the principal's office. I walked into the conference room. There must have been 8 or 9 people in that room.
Wow.
It was the principal, um, the support teacher, the counselor, the social worker, the teacher I made cry, a couple other teachers. It was like, I mean, the room was packed.
mhm,
And I was like, this is the most ridiculous thing that this is just ridiculous. So anyway, so again, all of these experiences, his elementary school principal, his middle school principal, and a crying teacher, and some of the things they did when he was in high school, all of these things, uh, you know, have informed my my approach to social emotional learning and my dedication to providing tools, providing schools with tools that are actually designed to empower,
mhm.
as opposed to what they were doing when my son was in school, and that many schools continue to do now. So, so I created a curriculum, and it's called Why is Different Awesome, and it's based on one of the books that I wrote. But the approach is to teach kids, all kids, not only the kids with IEPs, not only the kids with a condition, a diagnosis, not only the kids who have a behavioral problem. You teach every kid that they are unique and special. We're all different, you
Mhm.
know. I mean, none of us are the same. So don't say only the kids who have IEPs are different. Only the kids who have disabilities are different. Only the kids who may have darker skin are different. Only the kids who come to school in their traditional clothing, garb are different. Only the kids that have speak with accents are different. Everybody's different. We're all unique. We're all special, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. We need to embrace it. But what we also need to do is respect that the difference in the others. So
Right.
teach kids to just, hold on, embrace who you are. If you have ADHD, if you have autism, if you're on the spectrum, fine. Embrace that. Do what you need to do to succeed given that. But, it's you. Own it. Just
Yeah.
own it.
Mhm, mhm.
And then the, for all students, welcome everybody. You're all members of this community, the school community. We're all members of a bigger community, but when you're in that school, that is your community. Everybody is a part of it. Everybody can contribute it. Everybody contribute to it. Everybody is valuable. So
Excuse me. Yeah.
I Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
agree with that, Stacey.
Hmm.
And the thing is, we're here listening to you talk, and I guess you've been through this so often. I am just amazed that you can share this story so calmly because I know as a parent, anything that happens with my son, my emotions kick in and I tend to go off first and then think about should I have done that afterwards? I think we take what people do to our kids and internalize it and we take it, personally, especially when we feel they're being disadvantaged or marginalized for something that they have no control over. He doesn't have your son, he doesn't have any control over being on the spectrum or being ADHD. And it's just so unfortunate that some teachers don't work harder to include those kind of children. And not only that, I find our children watch us. Is not what we say, is what we do. So we need to do better at leading by example. And if
We
the
do.
school is where we send our kids for that example, from the teachers, and here's a teacher not even understanding what ADHD really means. Sometimes you think you're, fighting a losing battle. And that's why I think it's so good we're having this conversation and making people more aware this is what we're facing. But this is how we can start the change that is needed. And that change too can start with us in the way that we parent our children from home. So that when they go into school, they know differently and they can behave differently as much as possible.
Yeah.
I am a huge believer in modeling. I say all the time that parents are kids' first and best teachers. A
Hmm.
lot of parents have the mindset, that um, you know everything should be taught in school. What you may not teach them math, you may not teach them reading or science or whatever, but just by the way you behave, the way you lead
Hmm.
is what kids will learn. And so
Hmm.
model these positive characteristics.
Yeah. And I think we should model for our kids, treat others the way you would want to be treated. I know it sounds cliche, I know it sounds so simplistic, but at the end of the day, that really is the biggest lesson we could teach our children. And by example, rather than just saying, okay, Stacy, you should treat Gail how you would want to be treated. What does that look like? What does that feel like?
Hmm.
It means
Right.
if Karen can't focus at school is because he is different and he's awesome. How can we help him focus better? Because he is going to need to focus at school. And promote, we are in this together, we are here to help each other, rather
Hmm.
than push him aside because in our minds he's different rather than awesome. So it goes back to the mindset
Right.
as well. Are we different or are we just awesome? Are we just uniquely awesome? We're uniquely awesome. We're not different. I'm short, but I'm uniquely short. Is what I tell people.
Yeah.
Don't judge me because I'm short.
Yeah, but the fact that you want to bring your lessons and your teaching to school, I think is very important because
Mhm,
when it comes to bullying, schools, the way the system works, I
mhm,
find that it's a systemic issue, right?
Yes.
Because it just I know a few people that the kid been bullied in school. And the same way you just mentioned, how they seem to make the parent and the child the problem, opposed to
mhm,
fixing and correcting the issue. I think it's great that you want to bring this into school and teach them just to show them and display how a child that's being bullied should be, especially a child have ADHD or any other learning disorder. I think that's good that they should learn. They should be able to listen. This is how you
Hmm.
handle this when this happens. Instead of blaming the parent, instead of making the child feel like they're the problem because they're being bullied in school and because they don't behave the way they think that child should be behaving. Um, so I think it's a good thing that you're trying to bring this into school, and I think it needs to happen systemically. You
It
know.
does. It does. And it's a difficult battle.
Hmm.
Schools, sadly, schools, particularly public schools, are very political right now. There are so
Yeah.
many barriers to actually teaching and helping our kids. On the
Yeah.
one hand, there's a lot of talk, especially since 2020, the pandemic, about social emotional learning. I'm in a state where SEL has been a priority for decades. But what does that really mean? It's been a priority for decades. From a state level, it's been mandated for a long time, well before 2020. Illinois is a leader. However, my son graduated from high school in 2018, and as I mentioned, he has had IEP. He has had problems socializing and things like that. Never once Never once have I heard the term social emotional learning. You know, in the years he's been in the same school district, I have never heard that term. I learned about it once I started to do my work. Once I started to look for solutions, I learned about it and educated myself. I've never heard that term. So that's a problem because
Yeah.
even prior to 2020, schools, even schools that where it wasn't mandated from K to 12 or whatever, many use social learning tools specifically to help to support kids who either had IEPs or who had behavioral problems. So my son, he didn't have behavioral problems, but he had IEP. Even then, it was never mentioned. So I do think that there are schools, that there are principals that are doing
Yeah.
wonderful things.
Yes.
There I've worked with a school here in my area, Scott Elementary. The principal's amazing. He adopted my two of my curricula, and just having conversations with him, he's working hard to to go beyond what his district mandates. Okay, yes, of course I'm going to do everything implement curricula that the district has adopted. But you know what? We need more.
Yeah.
And and he opened his doors to what I'm doing. And it's not about me. It's
Right.
about providing tools to kids so that they can love themselves, and so that they could walk into that building and not be miserable.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Kids, some kids don't like school because yes, the academics may be a problem, you know, but school has an academic component and a social component. And kids are more likely to be miserable if the social component is a problem. So if you walk into school every day and you literally have no friends, you are or you are bullied, you're going to be miserable. And my goal is for kids to be happy. It's that simple. It's that simple.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. What if maybe for those people that might not, what is social emotional learning, right? And how does that look like to implement in your child or within a school's academic?
So social emotional learning is teachers kids to value themselves, to respect others. It teaches them about goal setting and making responsible decisions. It's all about teaching the whole student versus only the academic part of it. It focuses on the the social side of things and the emotional. I mean that's it's like I'm answering your question using the same term,
Mm-hmm.
but but
Mm-hmm.
but it does just that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think what is interesting about this, and I don't know how you feel about the comment I'm about to make, Stacey. I know that as a parent, we tend to, expect a lot of support from our teachers. But I know that when I was going to school in the year BC, whatever that was, a lot of teachers really focused on the academics. And yes, they taught us how to be respectful, those basic foundational things, but they never, to my mind, taught you about embracing differences specifically. And interestingly enough, I think we're now globally more aware of things like, ADHD, children who are on the spectrum. And we weren't really that aware of those things before. So, do you think it's more a situation where our teachers need more support in those areas? Because as a parent, you're expecting maybe the
Right.
teacher to have that skill. Maybe, I mean, yes, and it was an interesting question. Do you really know what ADHD means? But maybe she didn't. So maybe the teachers should be
Mhm.
trained or exposed to these kind of things and the support that is needed for parents with these kind of children.
So I
as a formal thing, you know what I mean? Like, don't just assume they're gonna get it. Formally say, okay, these are some additional softer skills that you need to have in these particular situations, and just train the teachers to be more aware, yes, to be more inclusive, and to be able to handle it, because sometimes you think they can handle it and really they don't have a clue, but they don't know they don't have a clue. If that makes sense, I think
sure.
I'm talking in circles. What I'm saying is sometimes we expect people to know, especially
Right.
if they're teacher and they really don't know.
So
So how do we manage that?
so
And then remember, the teachers are under pressure, keeping our children safe from drive-bys and
Mhm.
shootouts and all that. I think teachers are so pressured. I would never be a teacher, Stacy. I love them, but I just say that that is, being a teacher now is like as insecure as being a policeman on the road, and exposing yourself to risk. So they have a lot going on. How do we support the teachers as well as, our children, is, I guess, is the
yeah.
question.
And I'm reading some of the comments. The comment from Jose Perez
Yeah.
about social emotional learning is new,
Mhm.
and yeah, so teachers do need support. I don't want those who are listening to feel that I blame teachers and that I have a negative opinion of teachers. My mother was a teacher. My father, his primary profession was a minister, but he was also a teacher. He taught high school history. My mother taught the much younger kids, and so I have a huge amount of respect for teachers. And I'm with you, Gail. I never would want to be a teacher, especially in public schools, because I think that teachers' hands are tied in a lot of ways. I think that in recent years, there have been so many new policies, and politics have come in so much. And so much of what they can do and not do is dictated
Mhm.
by either by the district or by the state board of education. So I do sympathize with teachers, but on the other hand, it is the burden is on the district or even the principal to make sure that their teachers do get the extra support, extra education, or whatever it is that they need so that they can deal with certain things. If a child has an IEP and the IEP states his diagnosis, and the diagnosis is ADHD, a teacher should know what that means. They don't have to know as much as a medical doctor knows or a child psychologist knows, but they need to know what that looks like and what that means for how for a child in the classroom.
Yeah.
And so on that level, for that teacher, I have absolutely no sympathy for her. It's not only because it's my child, but you don't put a teacher in the classroom. And nowadays, so many kids have that diagnosis: ADHD,
Hmm.
autism, dyslexia. They have all of these things. This is not uncommon.
Hmm.
Teachers need to understand the basics. Now, if the teacher said to me, I understand your child has ADHD, but the problems he's having in the classroom, or the reason he's liking his work done, or whatever, is because of his lack of focus. And I understand that that is a symptom of ADHD. So maybe we should come in and kind of talk about what we can do. Or is he on medication? Perhaps you want to talk to your pediatrician about something. But don't just say he needs to focus. He needs to focus. That is not helpful.
Yeah. One thing that came to my head right now, we were just mentioning how if it's in the IAP and the teacher does not know that, it makes me wonder. As a teacher, I don't know what the teacher curriculum is in college, right? But is that taught? Is that something that's taught as a curriculum in the school in an academic way? I'm talking about as a teacher, or is it something that the principal or the systemic or the governor, whoever, or the mayor of that particular city failing that teacher because they're not
Right.
training them on what that is? And like you just mentioned, it's common now, right? So I'm sure 10 years ago, 15 years ago, that wasn't common. But
Right.
now that it is, should that be included in the academics? Or should it be training given on the job? But something do have to change. I
Well,
know that for
well,
sure.
teachers in some states, I don't know the rules for all states, but they are required to do continuing education. And just like you, I am not familiar with the, the curriculum that teachers
Right.
must go through to become teachers and the certifications that they need to go through on this, to teach in a certain state. But I do know that there are opportunities for continued education, and I do believe that the principal or the district or whoever needs to give teachers the tools that they need,
Yes, I
and
agree.
and,
Yeah.
and a tool could be certain books, it could be technology, it's also continued education. Well, a principal said to me a couple years ago, and you were talking about this is a different principle. We're talking about my why is different, awesome curriculum because it deals with just generally being different, and that also goes to skin color and race. So we're talking about that, and we're talking about anti-racism, and he said to me something very interesting. He said to me, I would love for my teachers to kind of add a component of that into the way they teach. The books that they decide to use in class and whatever. But then he said something which took me aback. He said, "But you know what? There are certain teachers in my building who I don't want them to go anywhere near that topic because," he said, "they would just mess it up. They they just don't understand it, and I don't want
Mm.
them to even talk about it."
Wow. That says a lot.
And I was like this, mm-hmm,
That would-
mm-hmm,
right.
And that is even
Yeah, it
sadder
is.
yes,
than our
It
conversation
is.
earlier.
It is.
yes. And
That is
so,
That
even
is.
so
sadder.
yes, teachers need to be supported by their principals. They need
Yeah.
to be supported by their districts. They need to, their social emotional wellness needs to be supported and understood.
Yes.
And
Hmm.
if teachers don't have the tools, then they don't have the tools. And another interesting thing about my entry into this area a few years ago, and when I wrote my first book, which is called "What's Your Superpower," and this was before I did workshops, before I developed a curriculum. So I wrote this book, "What's Your Superpower." And it was about helping kids become more confident. And I went to various events. I was selling my books, um, and so what started happening was so eye opening, and it contributed to me ended up where I am right now. Teachers would come to my table, and they would see what I had to offer, including that book. They would look at it, and teacher after teacher after teacher would say to me, "My school needs this. My school needs this. My school needs. Schools need this." And so, again, and when I wrote my first book, I knew nothing about social emotional learning, nothing. Um, and a lot of what I wrote was from the perspective of a mom,
Right.
and hearing stories from other parents. And so then, when I finally learned about social emotional learning, I studied it. I just dove into it, learned about it. And when I finally started talking to principals about my curriculum, blah blah blah, and principals would say, "Oh yeah, we need this, we did this," And so one principal I finally asked, I said, you know what? Why do you need this? From what I understand, you have a comprehensive social emotional learning program. You've had it for years. Why do you need this? And again, he said something which is very, very eye opening. Um, he said, and I'm not going to name the curriculum, but his school used two different comprehensive curriculum, one for certain grades and one for certain other grades. He said one, it's fantastic. Um, and the other one, he said, it isn't. It's not great. We're required to
Mm.
use it by the district. The teachers don't like it. He named a bunch of reasons why. The teachers don't like it. And so basically the teachers didn't buy into it. So although they use it, they didn't believe in it. And that's another problem. The
Yeah.
teacher, it's not, we're not talking about one teacher or two teachers.
It's,
In general, the teachers did not buy into this curriculum for whatever reason. Administrators need to listen to the teachers.
yeah.
And so because of that, well, that wasn't and for this particular school, that wasn't the main reason why they bought my curriculum, started using it, because my curriculum wasn't designed to replace any current curriculum. It's designed to supplement, and it does some very specific things. But again, it was eye opening. The teachers aren't being heard, and that's going to impact their effectiveness.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And it makes me wonder if a teacher, I mean, I would love for you to come back, Stacey, because I feel this conversation needs to have a part two.
Okay.
Because I think that we unpack so much in this segment that we only have about, we already going on what, 40 minutes? And I don't want to, we could be at 2 hours and then people gonna start, people gonna leave us.
Right. Right.
So I would love for you to come back, just to unpack more, because this is a conversation that people still, I'm sure they still have questions, and we didn't even get to the comments yet. We still didn't get to the questions.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I think it would be great just to come back and have a part two with this discussion. Just because I think it's very, very, very important
Mhm.
just for parents. Like I'm not a parent, but for all parents, it doesn't matter if you have a child that has a neurodivergent. As long as you have a child, they could benefit from this,
Right.
right? Because it will give that
Mhm.
child empowerment. It will give that child, just imagine how their mental health will be, being able to manage and identify the emotions, be able to man and say what it is they feeling, without, and just on a personal level, but also on academic level when it comes to the teachers. How can we, how, as a teacher, I would love to know that. If you know this program is great for your school, what can you do, right, to get it into your school? Because I feel like teachers have some form of power to do that, right? Or maybe even come amongst themselves and speak to the principal and show them this is. I think this would be good for this for the kids. I mean, that's just me. I just think they gotta have some form of power,
They they
right?
they they, they
Or some
do.
form of collectively come together. And if you think this is good for your school and you see a benefit in your students, why would you not advocate for it to be in your even if you start with your school, a few classrooms to start, that's still a win. And then maybe from there work to be in other,
Mhm.
a systemic thing if possible, right? Because it's politics in that as well.
Correct. I was gonna say,
Yeah,
Karen, sometimes, as Stacy rightly said, their hands are
yeah, it's
tied
Uh-huh.
politics.
and they may
Hmm.
want to do it, but they just
They
cannot
just
do it.
cannot. Yeah.
So, as Stacy said earlier, we don't want to be
Oh no,
bashing
no, no,
teachers per
not at
se.
all.
All we're just saying, is like it'll be great if they could be a little more
Yeah,
supportive, especially when our children are uniquely different. And it's hard. I think, as we determined, being a parent is hard. Being a teacher is hard,
yeah,
and that's before you have you have a child who, and I was thinking, as a child sitting in a classroom with another child who may have ADHD, for as an example, and you go home and you tell your parent, and Stacy would not be a good parent to tell this to, because her mindset is different. I say, Mom, I'm in this class, and every single day, Karen will not focus, and she's very disruptive. She can't keep quiet, and then you go to the PTA meeting, and somebody says, "Oh well, what are we gonna do about Karen? She's distracting Gail. Gail can't focus. Like y'all need to do something about her." So all parents are not the same, and all parents are not
Yeah.
open to these kind of conversations. So there's so many moving parts to this
Yeah, there is
conversation,
definitely.
and you have to take parents who are on a different wavelength into consideration. The Stacy's, the Gails, the Karen. There's a comment in there too from somebody from the Caribbean, and I know sometimes Caribbean people and teaching from a Caribbean perspective is different to the US.
Hmm.
And even Caribbean, not even Caribbean training, but when I grew up versus the world today, it is so different in terms of teaching, you know? So there's a lot going on, but I think baseline for us, we want to treat each other
Yeah.
at a minimum with respect and accept the fact that everybody, is not the same.
Yeah.
Everybody's not the
Yeah.
same.
I just want to say one thing.
Jose, did y'all see Jose's comment?
Yeah.
No, Jose, that's not what I'm saying. Karen is not always out of control. Well, she is normally out of control, but I was just using her as an example. She's a good girl.
No.
And she's not the one who's out of control. My point is there are lots of moving parts, and when you have a lot of different people involved, like you have parents, normal parents, other parents, you have students, the children at different ages, you have principals, you have teachers, and then you have Stacy who's called to the principal's office as though she was the bad student. It's just
So
it's
ridiculous.
just a lot going on, yes, and it is ridiculous. But at the end of the day, why I love this conversation is our goal when we have these Sunday live chats. Our goal is to make people more aware of what's
Hmm.
going on out there from somebody who's been there, done that, seen that, touched it, feel it. So Stacey's here because she has experienced it herself, and she's not just relaying a story from somebody else, that she heard from. And I do believe a second part, would be
Yeah,
great.
definitely.
Um,
Yeah, this
yeah.
comment,
Sorry,
no,
Karen.
this comment just, I keep looking at it and I have to, and like Jose Luis Perez, he said he's a teacher because I
Yes.
kind of read when he mentioned that, but he's two things that he really, that I'm like, wow. First, the comment is health education is not new, but the addition of neurodivergent
Yeah.
is
Your
new.
divergence
And then
is
the
new.
second part to that comment is I am in the process of finding support for my department's teacher to receive a professional development in neurodivergence. We are both educational department. Out of 175 students, I have half that are
Hmm.
IEP. That is the workload that I'm referring to. So that's to tell you what they, as teachers, what they're dealing with on a day to day. So I think that his comment just like wow, it kind of speaks to another level, right, on the teachers and what they dealing with, what they struggling with as
Hmm.
well, because they too get affected. They too have to deal with the student day to day, and then they feel they don't have the support too.
Yeah.
So
And we keep talking about schools, but we haven't even talked about what happens when these kids go into the
right,
workplace and they're
right.
working with somebody who has ADHD. Are they accepting of this person, or based on how they were brought up, are they going to exclude them?
Yes.
And then we have all these conversations now about DEI. So, we that's why I
Yeah.
said this we could go down the rabbit hole with this one, Stacy. So load
Yeah.
some stamina because you're gonna have to come back.
Right. This has
Well,
to be a part two. I
specifically,
mean,
Yeah, can you close this out, Stacy? Can you give us three tips for parents? How do you not get sent to the principal's office?
three
Do you
tips
have
for
any
parents
tips?
about what? I mean, well, three tips for parents. Well,
Yes, how can we help parents to teach their kids about social emotional learning from a parent's
so
perspective?
um, my focus is on teaching kids to own their power. That is my message: to understand their value and to understand their worth. And so, some tips for parents is one. Lean into your kids' strengths and find opportunities for them to have wins, to be successful. So, whatever your kid loves, just support that. At the same time, encourage them to take brave steps and try new things. And the other thing I would say is to, be careful about praising your kids. So say your kids, oh my gosh, you're so awesome. That's wonderful. But why are you awesome? That's more important. We all say our kids are wonderful. You're great. You're smart. You're this. You're that. But tell them why, so they can understand the tangible reason why you're saying whatever positive thing you're saying about them. And also, we tend to focus on certain types of wins, like getting an A, or making honor society, or being accepted into AP this, AP that, being accepted this college, getting this, blah, blah. On social media, you see all of that, and that's wonderful. Those are great accomplishments. But be as excited about your student who was getting D's and now is getting C's. Your
Right.
student who did not get into Harvard but got into the local community college. Post that and praise that with the
Right.
same enthusiasm that you praise these other, superlatives. So, and then just remind your child and encourage them to acknowledge their strengths. I have a whole workshop about own your power, in which I help kids to to start on a journey to be able to acknowledge and recognize their strengths and own them, because what we're taught not to brag, not to say positive things about
Yeah.
ourselves. You
Hmm.
know, I,
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Very true.
bragging, the dictionary definition of it, yeah, it's bad. But the byproduct of teaching of telling kids not to brag is that they are afraid to acknowledge out loud
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, or even to
Mm-hmm.
themselves, that they are amazing for this, and that reason. So
Yeah.
I know we're about to end, and I offer workshops. I have a curriculum, but I offer workshops, 1 day, 3-day workshops for kids, and I am open to sharing them with schools local to me. I'm in the Chicagoland area, as well as out of state. So if you're interested, I would love to have conversations.
Yes.
We would love you to have
Yes, and I'm
conversation.
adding, and I know. So what is it? Jose asked, "What's the name of your book, Stacy? Jose, what's the name of your book?" I did put the link in the chat, but I guess you specifically want to know what's the name of the book that you
Yeah.
reference
I mean,
to.
everybody, if anybody interested can reach out to
Yeah,
Stacy. They can send her a DM or send her a
I'm
message
putting
or put a comment,
I'm putting all her
you know.
information in the chat, and you do have a
Yeah.
blog for those that want to start today reading. The blog
Mm-hmm.
is
My
there.
blog isn't, exactly up to date. I haven't been blogging as regularly as I used to, but please follow me on LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
I post a
Hmm.
lot of stuff
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
as well as on Facebook. But please follow me on LinkedIn. And again, reach out to me if you want to chat about anything.
Yes,
And
yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
yeah, and I can share some of my successes, some of the outcomes of my workshops, and things like that. I was in St. Louis a couple weeks ago. I worked with six fifth grade classes on owning your power, and it was just an amazing experience, just to see
Mm-hmm.
the light bulbs coming on in the students'
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
heads, because they were able to say out loud, "I'm awesome because."
that's
Mm-hmm.
nice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, guys. I hope any
Okay.
last words because my text started to act up. So before we get any more
Yeah.
issues.
I have no last words really. I just wanted to thank Stacy for agreeing to come and join us on this
Yes, thank
Sunday
you.
and for dropping these golden nuggets. I mean, I learned a lot based
Yeah,
on the
me too.
comments. Everybody who joined us learned a lot as well. And we're gonna have you, Stacy, back for a part two.
Okay, thank
And
you.
there is hope for us, and we can be the change makers
Yes, yes,
and make this world a better place. Also, another cliche, but it is a fact. They need more people to step up and out to make the change in the world that we need to see.
yes. All right.
So great. Thank you
Bye,
very
everybody. Have
much.
a good
All right. We'll
Sunday.
be back
Yes, we'll
another
be back.
Sunday.
Bye, guys.
You guys.